Hello everyone and welcome to Rangers Rundown, a hockey channel where I give you the rundown on everything New York Rangers. In today's video, we're going to go over the first phase of the 2020 NHL entry draft taking place tomorrow, June 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, given the circumstances surrounding this season and, well, the world, the draft this year is going to look a little bit different than usual. The first phase of the draft lottery aims to determine the first 15 picks of the draft. Those 15 teams being made up by the 7 teams that did not qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs and the 8 teams that end up losing their play-in matchup. The NHL is only awarding the first 3 picks in the draft, and then picks 4 through 15 will be awarded by winning percentage in some fashion. The lottery odds for the 7 non-qualifying teams will be determined by their points percentage during the regular season. Now, Detroit has the best odds of any team, with an 18.5% chance of picking first overall this year. Ottawa is in second place with a 13.5% chance of picking first overall. But interesting thing about Ottawa, they own San Jose's first round pick in this draft, which happens to be in third with an 11.5% chance. So Ottawa really has a 25% chance of picking first overall in this year's draft. Pretty good odds. After that, we have LA with 9.5%, Anaheim with 8.5%, New Jersey with 7.5%, and Buffalo with 6.5%. Now, you might have noticed that New Jersey and Buffalo have the same exact winning percentage, but New Jersey received better odds because they had a worse regulation overtime winning percentage in the regular season. Now, since we haven't seen the play-in round yet, placeholders will be used to signify the 8 teams that will lose the play-in round. Once we know who those teams are, we can rank them accordingly based on their season points percentage. Now, of the 8 teams that lose the play-in round, whichever team has the worst points percentage will become Team A and have a 6% chance of getting the first overall pick in this year's draft. Now, the team with the second worst points percentage would obviously become Team B with a 5% chance of getting that first overall pick. The team with the third worst points percentage would become Team C, and so on and so forth until we get down all the way to Team H, which is the team that loses the play-in round but has the best points percentage in the regular season, and they would get a 1% chance at that first overall pick. So these 15 teams with these odds get thrown together to create the pool from which the draft order will be picked. Now, the most likely way this turns out is that bottom 7 teams win picks 1, 2, and 3. If that is the case, then the remaining 4 bottom 7 teams would be awarded picks 4, 5, 6, and 7 in inverse order by points percentage. Picks 8 through 15 would then be awarded to the losers of the play-in round in inverse order of points percentage. Here's how the Rangers' points percentage stacks up against the rest of the qualifying teams. Montreal has the best odds of any qualifying team should they lose in the first round, and Pittsburgh has the worst odds should they lose in the first round. Now, funnily enough, those 2 teams are playing each other in the play-in round, so if Montreal does fall to the Pittsburgh Penguins, at least they'll have decent odds going into the draft, and if Pittsburgh loses against Montreal, well, they're kind of out of luck. Now, the Rangers are somewhere in the middle. They are ranked 7th out of the 16 teams in terms of points percentage, so not good, not great. We'll take it. Just for fun, here's an example of what could happen. Let's assume that the bottom 7 teams end up in order by statistical advantage. So Detroit wins first overall, Ottawa wins second and third, and so on through the 7th pick. Let's also assume that every lower-seeded team loses their play-in round. Those eliminated teams would then be ordered by inverse points percentage for picks 8 through 15. Now, the craziest possibility would be if qualifying teams got picks 1, 2, and 3. If that were to happen in a very unlikely scenario, then the bottom 7 teams would be awarded picks 4 through 10. So Detroit would get the 4th overall pick, Ottawa would get 5th and 6th, and so on down through Buffalo. Now, I know what you're all asking yourselves, but Dylan, what if qualifying teams only win 1 or 2 of the top 3 picks? What happens then? And I'm so glad you asked. The remaining bottom 7 teams would then get the next picks in the draft. So as a for instance, let's say qualifying teams win 1st and 2nd overall, and let's say Anaheim wins 3rd. Detroit would get 4th, Ottawa would get 5th and 6th, LA would get 7th, we would skip over Anaheim, New Jersey would get 8th, and Buffalo would get 9th. Now, there is a caveat to this whole process. If any qualifying teams win in the top 3 picks, then a second phase will happen between the end of the play-in round and the beginning of the first round to determine the order of the eliminated teams. Now, I know this is all very confusing. It sounds like I'm explaining the payment structure of a pyramid scheme. And believe me, I was confused for hours trying to figure this out and put it into words that I think would be the least confusing for you to digest. But luckily, this is all going to make more sense once tomorrow's entry draft is done and we can sit down with the information and figure out how we're moving forward. So what does this all mean for the Rangers? Well, if the Rangers beat Carolina in the play-in round, then their own first-round pick could be 16 at best, depending on how far they make it in the playoffs and what other teams lose in the play-in round. Now, here's something to keep in mind. The Rangers own one of Carolina's first-round picks this year. Carolina has their own first-round pick and Toronto's first-round pick from a trade involving Patrick Marleau. Now, the Rangers are going to receive whichever one of those 2 picks falls lower in the draft. Toronto's first-round pick is protected, so if it ends up in the top 10 of the draft, it gets bumped back to Toronto, and they would send over their 2021 first-round pick to Carolina. If that condition is met, Carolina would then owe the Rangers their own first-round pick. So no matter what happens, the Rangers are getting a first-round pick from Carolina in this draft. Now, here's the worst-case scenario. The Rangers defeat Carolina, and Toronto defeats Columbus. If this happens, then the Rangers' own first-round pick gets bumped to the bottom half. Toronto's first-round pick that Carolina owns also gets bumped down to the bottom half. So worst-case scenario, the Rangers get 2 late first-round picks. Still good, but not the situation we'll be hoping for. Now, here's the situation that Rangers fans are going to be rooting for. Rangers defeat Carolina, Columbus defeats Toronto. In this instance, both of Carolina's first-round picks get bumped into the top 15, and the Rangers move forward to the first round of the playoffs. So, that's the situation I'll be rooting for. Now, here's the absolute best-case scenario. Rangers defeat Carolina, Columbus defeats Toronto. Carolina wins the draft lottery, and Toronto's pick gets into the top 10. That means Toronto's pick would get booted back to them for being in the top 10, and Carolina would hand the Rangers the number 1 pick in the draft. How crazy would that be? Is it going to happen? No. Is it cool to think about? Absolutely. Bottom line, the Rangers have 2 first-round picks in a very deep draft, one of which could be at least 15th, if not higher. If you're interested in watching, Phase 1 of the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery takes place tomorrow, June 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, then please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next rundown.